and welcome everyone to Voice of the Non-Nation. John, how's it going?
It's going good. We got
We're
a
here for week 9 episode, I believe, right? Or am I
week
one week
eight, week
off?
nine. We're somewhere in there.
We're
We're
somewhere there.
we're
We're rolling right
consistent.
along. That's right. Consistency, week in and week out. It has been a week. How are you, my friend?
Oh, good. We got a couple of good topics to talk about today. We've had hardware wallets
Ooh.
controversy. We have people aping into the dumbest things, in my opinion. We have a governance takeover, a hostile governance takeover to chat about, and talking a little bit about the Bedrock update for Optimism. So
Ooh,
we
very
got a
cool.
slate.
Very cool. Great list of topics there. First, let's get into some housekeeping items. You and I were just talking before the recording started, but this show, to all the holders out there and new entrants who watch, the show is going to be changing. We are going to be adding mucho production values to the show. We're going to be, implementing a number of features that you probably see in your favorite types of podcasts, like skippable topics, chapters in the timeline, things like that. It will transition to less of being general news about the space and more of being really dedicated to NONnation and use cases and the tools and things like that. So, as we inch closer to the release here, we're really excited to kind of transition the show and to start, moving towards that kind of content for you guys. Yeah, so that change will take place over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Unfortunately, we've all got a number of irons in the fire, and we can't just work on it just 1 week solid and transition the next week. But over the course of the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, right? We will be transitioning the show to that kind of format. So we're excited about that. And also, John, I know we talked about some kind of, you know, um, getting some more participation in the Discord and the marketing channel as far as, what kind of topics we'll be covering, things like that. Guests, who, we'll be putting some polls in there and things like that. Some surveys of, content that folks want to see in the show. So, anything you can think of that I left out? That was a cool
Yeah,
conversation.
we're gonna get some more participation here from
Yeah.
the community, from guests, and you'll see changes that they'll sort of slowly roll out. It won't be 1 week we're doing this style and then next week it's all flashy and new 1 week.
Yeah.
This will be a
Yep.
slow rollout. We'll test some things, see how they go. But just keep an eye out for those changes, and engage with us on Discord if there's something you want to hear us talk about or someone
Yep.
you wanna have us have on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of, for all the holders, this is kind of the silence before the storm. And I know you guys have heard that before, but, as we inch closer to the release, I mean, this is a surreal, tangible thing. So it's exciting times for the non-nation. So we're here. It's Tuesday here, but this is the week of May 22nd through the 26th. And like you said, John, we've got some exciting topics to talk about. Let's start out with Ledger if we can. I saw the CEO doing some pretty fine, backpedaling in an interview. I think, yeah, with oh God, who was it? Was it Bankless? I think it was maybe
They
Bankless.
had him
No, it
on
was some bit.
Bankless.
It was some bit. Okay, yeah. So I saw him on Bankless, and then I saw him with some Bitcoin holders talking about how they needed to basically preserve the back door for subpoena requests and things like that. And he's like, well, guys, it's not really a big deal. I mean, you really think you're just going to get subpoenaed out of the blue, and like, it has to be a very serious thing. And like, you could just read the expression on the people's face involved in that conversation, and it felt like he was so aloof and disconnected from some of the values of decentralization in the space that you would maybe expect the CEO of Ledger to be familiar with. And it was like, man, read the room. Like,
Well,
this
it's
is
sensitive
crazy to
too,
hear
at
this. I know
least.
you've got to like, you know, toe the line here and to, put your company in a good light. But wow, the way that you're saying this, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. So give
Yeah.
us some context and your take, if you wouldn't mind, things you've heard about it this week.
Yeah. So to get everyone up to speed, last week Ledger came out and said, hey, we're having this exciting new update where you are going to be able to have a social recovery. And what that
Yeah.
is you basically take your key phrase or your private key, you break it up into chunks,
Yep.
and your private key can be reconstructed from, X of Y of those chunks. In Ledger's case, they break it into three, and with two of
Right.
those three, you can reconstruct the private key, which means you never give out your full private key to anyone.
Right.
But by relying on multiple shards of these together, you can go ahead and put it back together. And this is talked about in some other context. Vitalik has even talked about it some.
Yep.
He used
Yep.
it once in a in a social recovery situation for a wallet of his. He said it
Yep.
was painful. This is
Yeah.
Ledger's attempt to try to roll it out in mass production.
Yeah.
But this had some unintended side effects. One, these shards of a private key, private phrase, were going to be stored with three different corporations, and with two of the three, you could reconstruct the private key.
Yep.
This set off two red flags for people. One, corporations can be subpoenaed, which means all a government would need to do to get your private key through the social recovery feature is to subpoena two of those three organizations, two of those three companies, get those
Yep.
shards, reconstruct your private key, and then have basically backdoor access to your wallet,
Yep.
which is huge no bad
Yep.
against everything that Bitcoin and decentralization stand for. The other thing, and I got a slide for this somewhere here. Ledger has previously really gone on the hey, your private key never leaves your wallet. In fact, this was one they said November 15th, 2022. Basically, they said your private key doesn't leave the secure element of the chip. There's a chip inside your hardware wallet. Your private key never ever leaves there. They said this.
Yep.
Post everything else that they said, they have now
Yeah.
gone to, well, actually, all it would take is a firmware update, and you've always trusted Ledger. Too bad we lied before.
Yeah.
Which is
a,
so
a
the
cup.
second
It's
the,
yeah.
the second really bad thing there is they basically had a PR nightmare. They basically have been soft lying for years about how secure
Yep.
their hardware wallet was, and
Yep.
that's all come crashing down now that they're trying to push this new feature. So,
Yeah.
what are your
Yep.
takes on it? And then I'll give you
Yeah.
my take after looking at this for quite a while.
Yeah. So two things. So the first thing, you mentioned, their intention and social recovery and things like this. I get that. I will say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, obviously. Number two, I have been a Ledger customer and user since 2017. And it's funny how they're being called out in this tweet for the kind of, the shifting of the language. My understanding from being, with them since back in 2017 was that the secure element chip, they used to use language along the lines of it's not possible for it to generate and for it to leave it. And so it's super interesting now to see them take the stance and to clarify and to say, well, it's always been possible, but we just never wrote the software, the firmware to do it. Because I would call them out and to say that, back in the day, and no, I'm not going to go look for the 2017 tweets and documentation and things like that, but they certainly cultivated this, kind of general knowledge principle that it's not possible for the
Mm-hmm.
seed phrase to ever leave the secure element chip. And this is just super disappointing and disingenuous. As a user who stores the balance of my cold wallet and holdings on a ledger, like it really has me spooked, and it has me looking honestly at other options, open source options specifically, because time and time again, you're just shown that, whether it's custodial services or, and these platforms that, too big to fail and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's like, how many times do we need to get burned before we have to understand that, these companies don't have users, best interest in mind, and they have, the bottom line is, as their number one interest. So that's another revenue path for them, straight up,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying that it's not needed, right? I mean, we've seen so much destruction and damage by people losing their keys and their seed phrases and things like that. And lives have been ruined, things like this. But this is not the answer, in my
Yeah. Well, the backlash was actually so great that just today, hours ago, Ledger came out and said, okay, we're going to put the social recovery on pause. We're not going to do it yet. First, we're going to open source everything. Or I think a large majority, maybe not quite everything, but they're open sourcing everything, or
opinion.
nearly.
Yeah.
In
Yep.
response to this, so the backlash was so harsh, so good that Ledger's taking steps to go ahead and change direction here. And I think that's a good thing. They're responsive to feedback here. And from what I got from reading a bunch of other Twitter threads last week was you need some amount of upgradability of your hardware wallet to let it use new chains, to use new algorithms. So it's always
Right.
been possible to have firmware change what's on your device, which means you've always been exposed to some degree. Anything that's
Right.
upgradable can be, changed out to something potentially malicious,
Right.
or it's used to add features. Uh, and in this case, they're adding a feature that seems like it goes against their old stuff. So, in
Yeah.
my opinion, it's a PR nightmare. But from the sound of things, all hardware wallets basically have the same sort of vulnerability. Just be careful.
Oh my God. Yeah. And hey, I mean, this is one of those things where practically everybody today here is an early user, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
these are the growing pains of, watching a technology mature in front of our very eyes and things like this, and being an early adopter. But I have to say that, like, just, people need to be careful with their holdings, and, same thing goes for those, for those holders who use custodial services and things like that, or got caught up in the FTX mess, or any kind of things like that, right? Is that just be careful, like you
yeah,
said. It really
and
has me personally. It has me looking at air gapped QR code options, because I've heard that
yeah.
that's kind of the way to go with open source and things like that. So
Yeah. Also, I think there might now be a market for a device that's not upgradable. We've had some of the we've had some maturity in the space. We have sort of a number of chains that have established themselves, are proven algorithms that are proven. Let's
yep.
make a hardware wallet that's non-upgradable. Yeah, it only works with stuff right now, but make it
Right.
absolutely secure to the point that people who are maxis in this sort of thing, who really want
Right.
protection over everything else, over upgradability, have an option, a product,
Right.
one,
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
one. Doesn't need to
Right.
be all of them. You can have your social recovery stuff. Have
Right.
one option for the maxis around
Yeah.
here, where it's not upgradable, but it's secure.
Yep. And let's real quick, if we can. I'm going to see if the podcast software will play along, but I just want to show this. I want to show this interview here with let's see here, with the CEO here, and hopefully this will play and everybody can hear the audio. But let's start over here and let's listen.
I'm not hearing anything.
Can you hear it? Okay.
No, I can't hear anything.
You can't hear it. Okay. So this was on the What Bitcoin Did podcast, and basically, you know, and who knows if it's gonna play along or not. But that's where he made the point of, like, well, guys, like, the subpoena is really serious. Like, if you're not doing anything wrong, you're not going to get subpoenaed. Mm.
Oh,
That is not congruent with the values of our space.
no.
GTFOH with that crap. Not
Opening
up
yourself
in
up to
here.
opening yourself up to the legal system like that is
Right.
just a bad idea to me.
Tell me you don't know what this space is all about without telling me you don't know what this space is all about.
I get it. They want to sell stuff. They want to,
Right.
and
Exactly. And
I
that's
think
that's
the
the bottom
recovery.
line. The point you just made is the absolute bottom line, right?
Yeah,
That is their objective, right? And you should always be very cognizant of what their number one objective is revenue for their company. They
yeah.
are a company.
They want to be able to sell this to people who are just getting into the space, who really don't want to mess around with seed phrases and stuff. They want to plug and play. Oops, reset
Yep.
password. How many people do
Yep.
that on accounts they have? It's like, oh, I don't remember a
Right.
password, reset it. That's
Yep.
what this is. They're trying to make it, appealing
Yeah.
to more average users. And I get that, but the people
Yeah.
who are here right now are the hardcore users. Make products
Right.
for us as well.
Especially at this time in the market, right?
Yes.
talk about talk about introducing a dumb part of the market. All right, I'm going to keep us going because this is supposed to be the rapid fire episode. Unfortunately, I'm in a time crunch. Tell me about psyop because I almost got psyop this week, and
No,
I
don't.
don't know
Please.
about it, but
No,
I've
no,
been
no,
seeing it
don't.
in my meme coin buying group, and I've seen it all over Twitter. So please tell me the story about psyop if you would.
Okay. There's a guy called ben.eth. He launched a token during the Pepe craze called Ben. Now, whether by intention or accident, this got the attention of another Ben in the space known as BitBoy.
Oh yeah,
He
oh
got
yeah.
into it,
Okay.
said, "Hey, coin has my name on it." There were some interesting things about him not knowing how to use Uniswap, BitBoy. Uh,
Would not surprise me in the least, by the way. Go ahead.
he sent an approval transactions like, why didn't I buy any? And it's like, because you approved the
Wow.
token, you didn't buy the what? Anyways, past that. So
LARPer.
BitBoy gets involved. Ben go, the token Ben goes crazy. Ben.eth makes the deal with BitBoy to sell the token to BitBoy, who also seems like dumped from a public wallet.
Oh right, he
Yeah.
he pumped and dumped that, right? Not even 24 hours later, right? After this,
He said he was going to hold
standing
for
on the
6 months or
soapbox and I'm
something.
gonna hold
And
it. Yeah, right, right, right.
anyways, that's a whole thing. Ben.eth became famous because of this, and has now gone on to launch another token called Psyop. I'm not even going to show the picture of it
Oh, this
because
is
I don't.
another token.
This is a different. So after Ben, I think he made some serious cash off of it. He was some low level NFT influencer. This was his breakout moment. Still his breakout moment. He tweets in all caps. Anyways, so after selling Ben, becoming famous, he decides to go ahead and launch a Psyop
Sounds very
token.
on brand for an NFT influencer.
Psyop token is a complete and utter disaster from the very start. So let me walk you through this. Let me show you the absolute degeneracy involved here. There was not a contract to
Yeah.
buy Psyop. Ben said, "Send ETH to my personal wallet, and I will airdrop you tokens afterwards." People sent
Wow.
tens of ETH directly to his personal wallet, mixed with his personal funds. He did launch a token. He could have just rugged immediately. He did launch a token. So
Yeah.
that's I don't want to say that's
I
the
guess
glimmering
people
light.
got lucky
Anyways,
there, right?
he launched a token. Then here's the crazy part. He airdropped 5% of the token, 5% to the holders. Set up a Uniswap V3 pool that was not that was either set up poorly through lack of knowledge or set up maliciously, to the point where people were trying to buy immediately from the Uniswap pool and there was just no liquidity to buy the way he had set the range. And so people
Yep.
threw tens of ETH in there and got pennies worth of token out, essentially. He still owns like
Oh my
95%
goodness.
of the supply.
In the rush to get in, right?
Yes,
In the
yes.
rush.
So people bought bought this airdrop from him by sending ETH directly to a wallet. Liquidity pool was set up poorly to the point where people trying to get in early on the rush got absolutely annihilated. And I think the token's pumped now, but there's one entity that controls like it's somewhere between 92 and 97% of the token. Those were the numbers I've seen
Oh my
recently.
goodness.
Just
Wow.
has full control of it, which means fully diluted value is 20 times what it is based on the on-chain data, and at any point the entire thing could rug. And this is
Excuse me, John.
if
Excuse
you're,
me. Let
yeah,
me let me let me just speak to the whole space right now. Everyone, we're better than this. We're
we're
better
better
than
than
this.
this.
John, are
We're
we
better
better
than
than this?
we're better. We
I
should be
think we're
better
better
than
than this.
this.
But we should
I
be better than this, right? Smart
I did
contracts
not send
exist
him
for a reason,
anything.
right? Smart contracts exist for a reason, right? That's what we're doing here on Ethereum, right? This is crazy to me. Uh, wow. Okay,
If
that's
it's
interesting.
and
And
if
hey,
it's not enforced
you
by
labeled
smart
it as "let me show
contracts,
you the degeneracy," and man, you nailed it. That is
yeah.
some serious degenning right there,
If it's not enforced by a contract, don't expect it to actually happen. The fact that a token launched at all
right?
here is either to continue a grift potentially, or I don't know, to become famous.
Hey,
I really don't.
these days you're lucky for a contract to function as it's expected to
Yeah.
function. Shout out to NONnation factory contracts that are coming.
Yes. Yeah. The factories that exist currently, and the ones that are coming. Yeah.
That's right.
But
That's
yeah,
right. So the
don't.
fact that people are going outside of smart contracts even and relying on reputation and trust to jump in, to the proverbial, crowded room, before everybody hits the exits, right? We got to be better than this.
You could not
So
pay
that
me
is
to
that is
buy any of
wild.
that token right now. That is
You
no.
hit all of the you hit all of the major things I expected to hear in a story like that. BitBoy was involved.
Yep.
There was an ape involved. No, no offense if you're an ape holder, but come on, like there's some trust and reputation and some airdrops and some shady deals and Uniswap gone wrong, things like that, large percent. So hey, I mean, you hit on almost every theme there. The one thing that we're missing is somebody to have wrote a shitty contract and someone exploited it just by using the code and did nothing wrong. So
Yeah. But, yeah, no, this is a case where, you could have a factory for tokens. We have one. It's called the items factory.
yep,
You can make
yep,
items that are standard on chain. Um, and if they come from the factory, they're secure. I think PsyOps also had like 100% sales tax or something on it, whether
yep.
that's current or initially. It wasn't, people got destroyed trying to get into this and selling it and trust things
Imagine
that come from good
imagine
code.
sending your hard-earned ETH and getting pennies back. Like this is 2014 and this is the pre-sale or something. Imagine sending your hard-earned ETH and getting pennies back. I would just be crushed. Everyone, put your money into actual projects that are actually going to change the space, that have solid reputations, things like that. Hey, good job. Oh, NONnation just popped up. I don't know. My browser window switched. I'm not even joking
Uh-huh.
either. I swear. No, I'm not. I'm serious. That's pretty wild. Entities page just popped up. It like switched. In fact, I thought you dropped off the podcast. But that token factory contract, right? Some
Yeah.
interesting stuff coming up there. So excited to visit that soon. So let's keep moving right along. TC governance. Give us the update there if you would.
Tornado Cash, the governance. So Tornado Cash as a product was OFAC sanctioned by the
Yep.
U.S. Uh,
Yep.
as U.S. citizens, we're definitely not using it. But
Yeah.
people who used it in the past,
Sadly.
there's a whole big story there. If you don't know about it, go check it out. But Tornado Cash governance, basically people who were running relays get paid
Yeah.
in the Torn token, Tornado Cash governance token, which is a
Yep.
DAO that was set up after the Tornado Cash pools to basically help, upgrade the project going forward, do some stuff, and reward these relayers through
Was
a
that
making governance token.
after? Was the governance token set up after or before the OFAC
It was set up before.
situation?
It was set up before, but it was set up after the Tornado Cash pools, which had their contracts revoked, which is part
Yeah.
of the reason no one could do anything to change Tornado Cash. Yeah, front ends could get taken
Yep.
down, but the contracts to this day remain operational.
Yeah. And they will forever as long as Ethereum keeps going.
Yeah. What
Yep.
happened here was there was a governance proposal for the Tornado Cash DAO. Uh, And this governance proposal looked like it purported to be a repeat of basically, hey, relayers, somebody's cheating you out of money. We did this fix before by basically changing an address somewhere. We can do it again.
Yep.
Here's another proposal. They said, the person who proposed this said, everything's totally the same. We're just, I swapped these two addresses. What he didn't mention was there was one extra function in there. There was a self destruct function for this governance proposal. And what that let it do was the guy was able to go ahead and, once the proposal passed, self destruct that contract and replace it with a new one that had the
Mm.
same address but different byte code. And you can do this through use of create and create to. Create to basically lets you create a contract
Mm-hmm.
at a set address by doing some extra math. It's
Yep.
used pretty wide, throughout the space for various legitimate
Yeah.
reasons. Uniswap uses it for their pool creation. You take the
Yep.
two known addresses for the tokens that you're pulling together, hash them together, use create two, and so the pool is set. Then you know where that pool is going to be.
Yep.
So he self-destructs it and then changes it with a new contract that basically gives him full access and control of the Tornado Cash governance. This doesn't change the pools. The pools are still immutable, but it sounds like there could be some issues with the router. He could go through and
Yeah.
push a proposal for the router. There's some funds on Genasi chain that are protected by just the DAO, not immutable pools. But it takes like 7 days for a proposal to pass. So
Oh, you're talking about Gnosis.
Gnosis, yeah, I
Gnosis shit. Okay, I got you.
Gnosis chain, not Genos. Yeah. Anyways, I see
No
it in my head as
worries.
one. That's how it goes through my head all the time. I know that.
No worries.
Anyways,
Yep. Okay,
um,
gotcha.
but
That's
right now this
interesting.
person has full control, and they withdrew a bunch of governance token that were staked and sold them all off, and we're able to profit some that way. But they now have full control of the governance. And what this led me to was I thought about some stuff on how governance needs to operate,
Yeah.
and this is a place where some of the NONnation tools would come in very handy. So
Mm.
they purported that, this is the same as a previous proposal. Well, go ahead and launch a factory that does exactly that kind of proposals where you can just change, the address here and there.
Right.
And then anything that comes out of that factory, you can
It's known
trust.
good.
Yeah.
Right. It's known
You don't
good.
have to have people go over every single governance proposal if those governance
Right.
proposal comes from a factory that you
Yep.
trust. So governance is one of the greatest options and one of the greatest places you can implement the factory system, because you can say, here's a
Yeah.
factory that does one thing. And we use this in NONnation. We use it for like what tokens we're going to buy from the investment fund. That
Yep.
that that proposal comes from a factory contract.
Right. Right. Yep.
And that way that you
Crazy.
are secure, that you can only change certain parameters, an address here, an address there,
Yep.
but the logic of your proposal is the same every single time. You don't have to go through and check that. You just have to check, addresses,
Yep.
which are the,
I love it.
important things here.
Yep.
So
That's,
we have the
and
tool.
that's the ethos, hey, no pun intended, of NONnation and solving problems in the space. I love it. So it will be very exciting uh, to push the marketing value props around those kind of things that we're preparing and stuff like that, right? I mean, because these things, with everything that we've seen in the space, they're just going to click with people, right? And so, yeah, quiet before the storm on that. Excited to get that out there. All right,
Yeah.
let's go to our last rapid fire topic, Bedrock. There's an update on the Optimism Bedrock governance, right? Or
Yeah.
just the status of it. So let's try to keep it to maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll do our sign off.
Yeah, we're just gonna do. We'll cover Bedrock in a little while when when it's getting pushed.
In
I
depth.
have it up on
Yeah.
another tab. Um,
Yep.
the Optimism Bedrock update is slated for June 6th at 1600 UTC.
Oh, we have a
And
date now.
we have a set date. So over the past couple of weeks, they have frozen the code base over on the test net.
Yep.
Uh, and I think they went through a testnet upgrade already, but they had frozen the code base on GitHub. Wanted to make sure everything was stable. Wanted to make sure everyone had time to look everything over. Again,
Yep.
it's been pushed a couple of times now
Yep.
since either exploits or bugs were found. But this, we are, I think we're through the testnet deployment already, and we are going on to the mainnet push of this. And Bedrock, for everyone, just as a quick overview, it's a full large code rewrite of some of the optimism logic here, and its goal is to go ahead and reduce transaction fees and a
Yep.
couple of other things here: lower fees, shorter deposit times,
Are we
improve.
already worried about lower fees on Optimism? As a primarily a mainnet user, I love Optimism fees. So hey, I guess more of a good thing is a good thing, but you know,
Lower's better because then you can have sort of some
yeah,
processes that
more
sort of run in
activity,
the
more
background.
scalability.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep,
I know
definitely.
with like velodrome and stuff, if you're an LP, you can do auto compounding strategies which
Mm,
work better on lower gas fees. So anything that's auto compounding
yeah,
where you need transactions every day, every other day or so, the lower your fees are, the more compounding you're going to get, the less it's going to
right.
be sort of drained through
It's
those. So
it's it's cool to see projects building for the future,
mhm,
obviously, and not necessarily where we're at now. Just like NONnation has done with the rerouting of contracts and 95% cheaper fees, things like that, right? Building for the future and not necessarily where we're at
yeah.
now, but for the future anticipated user base. So pretty cool.
Yeah, we're excited for this because obviously we have contracts deployed on Optimism. So if
Yep.
launching them becomes cheaper through this upgrade, if Optimism continues to push and be a leader in the L2 space, uh,
Yep.
better it is for everyone who's deployed on it. And we will be coming back to talk more about Bedrock in the future. But this is the quick overview, and we have the date. We have the date again. Let
Yeah.
me. It's on the other one.
We should do a an optimism bedrock focused episode. Maybe we could even bring Benji on their business development.
Hey,
Um, like the guy in my role for optimism and have him on as a guest. So let's see here. But shout out to everything that Optimism is doing. But we should do a focused episode where we deep dive into Bedrock and we talk about non-nation integration and things like that too.
yeah, yeah. Uh, this is an upgrade coming around the corner, and I'm looking forward to talking about it more in the future. We have our
Yeah.
date now. We are ready to go ahead. This is becoming a reality sooner rather than later. So I'm very excited to see that. And yeah,
Yeah.
stay tuned for more updates on that.
Come on, downtime during an upgrade for
Two
mainnet.
to
Come
four
on.
hours of downtime. So there'll be some interesting arbitrage.
Yes, there.
Right after that happens.
What is it? What is it in politics? Never let a good crisis go unexploited, right? And
Oh yeah,
in our space, it's never let an arbitrage opportunity go unexploited. So it's funny. But yeah, so June 6th at 1600 UTC, very cool. Props to the Optimism team in the project, doing great work out there for the space. So. All right, so that's 34 minutes, John. We are 4 minutes over, but we did pretty good because some of these topics, man, we could stay on here for 2 hours talking about some of this stuff, and also hey, maybe one of these episodes we'll have a voice of the non-nation over beers and do a long form one for 60 to 90 minutes or something like that. So I know
yeah.
there's been a couple of times where we've already gone over 60 minutes. Definitely when we have a guest on and the conversation will rabbit hole and things like that. That'll be a good time to have a long form one. So all right, any parting thoughts here, John?
Don't send ETH directly to people to pre-sale a token. Trust in contracts.
Use Ethereum as it was intended.
Yes. If you send money to someone, consider it gone.
Right? Yeah, and I know some people have learned some hard lessons with that, with the rush on ordinals. We don't have to get into that, but still, right? We're operating in a trustless space. Use it in a trustless manner, please. All right, everyone, stay safe. Thank you for joining us for episode 8, and as always, we will see you next week. Take care.